All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning. So my name is Daniel Foster. I am on the Rebuild Committee. Also with me today is Craig Kennedy, Corey Morris, and Pastor Scott. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to walk you through some pretty significant updates that we've got on the building project and what we have going on with that. So we're just going to jump right in. Maybe. Move? Yeah. Perfect. So what we're going to talk about today is just the activity that we've been doing. I know it's hard when you don't see a lot of physical progress, but trust me, there's a lot going on, a lot of work being put in. So we want to make sure that you're all kept informed of that. We've got some news from FEMA that we're going to talk through, as that is a significant funding portion of our building. So it's really critical that we're all on the same page with that and how that's going to impact our project. We'll talk about that too. We've got an updated estimated schedule that's always kind of in flux with a large construction project that we have. So it's kind of a moving target on that piece. We'll have the current state of designs. We'll get to see some pretty pictures and floor plans, which is going to be really exciting. I think previously you've kind of just seen some large box style drawings. This is going to get a little bit more granular and help you see what our space could look like. And then we'll have Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, concerns, comments, anything, we'll be up here to answer your questions. So we'll start with the FEMA approvals. We have a lengthy approval process for demolition. For the building, the stained glass is already removed, and the organ project as well for our new organ. That's all been fully approved and funded by FEMA. So that is great news. You have to break everything up into multiple pieces, so we're moving really well there, and that's a huge blessing for us. You may have noticed the cost of literally everything is a little bit more expensive these days, and that is the same for all of our construction materials. We are at record level prices, so that does impact us and how our money is used. We've got alternates identified to keep everything at a reasonable financial level for us as the church, so we can make sure we're being really fiscally responsible with the monies that we do have, but also still getting the building that we need to carry out our ministries. We are in design development, which is where I really like what it says, some meat on the bones. Again, it's not just the big boxes that you've seen. We're going to get a little bit more into that. We'll have stakeholder meetings, design adjustments, contractor pricing input. All of that is still to come. And then demolition and salvage. We've identified what needs to be salvaged from the church building itself, those physical pieces, and then what is going to be demolished here relatively soon. So we'll talk about the demolition process right now. So on April 18th, we are going to start the debris clearing and salvaging portion. You can see that's a great picture of the chancel rail. That's one of the pieces we're going to be saving and seeing what we can do. And there's been a lot of thought put into what can we keep and reuse for our new building, because there's a lot of pieces and history and character that make up a part of what East End is. So we're being really thoughtful about that, both interior and exterior of what we're able to salvage and reuse. That's going to take about 2 weeks. And then once we get that 2 weeks, we've got to go into the asbestos abatement. Not a surprise, that building is old, has asbestos. We've got to make sure we're taking all the right steps to protect everybody who's going to be on the site. And then after that 2-ish weeks, we're going to start on the actual demolition. So that's going to take about 5 weeks. And again, we have already deconsecrated the church, so we'll be able to just step right into that piece as well. And then, all right. So the project schedule, again, this is as of today. Things change, things happen. It can move a little bit. So in the spring and summer, we're going to do the demo. And then we've got to get approval from the district and from you, from East End, on how do we want to proceed. We have official meetings, again, that you will be a part of. We also have permitting that's got to happen, which is normal for a project, final FEMA approvals on some of our other outstanding projects, and then design and pricing completion. So that's all going to be happening here sooner rather than later, which is exciting. And then come in the fall, we'll be doing site work, the foundations, the slab, getting everything ready to put us into construction in 2023. And what our hope and goal is right now is that at Advent of 2023, we'll have our grand opening. And that'll be a really special season just for Advent, for the church, and for us in a new building. So there's a lot to look forward to about that. So I'm going to hand it over to Scott, and he's going to give a little bit of update on some FEMA pieces.
Okay. Well, I have to say, in my life, I've had some really bad luck on St. Patrick's Day. So last St. Patrick's Day, I was sitting at my computer working when I got an email from our FEMA consultants that said there was some news, and I obviously started quaking. However, this turned into something that I had to quickly try and prove wasn't too good to be true. So on March, for the entire time we've been doing our project, we've been working under the working assumption that we would be receiving 75% of the gap between our insurance costs, our insurance payout, and the actual project cost to be covered by FEMA. That's in the federal law. However, on March 15th, the United States Congress passed a new spending bill that changed the law to increase FEMA support from 75% to 90%. So I quickly Googled and called and tried and figured out if this could actually be real. And it is real. Our project is now, all of our projects will now be obligated to 90% of the gap between our insurance money and the fair project replacement costs. So that is a 15% addition support from FEMA, but actually from our end, as we were expecting to pay 25% on top of our insurance payout, that actually means that we are going to be paying 60% less for our project than we were anticipating, which is just unbelievable. And to be frank, a big thing that the building committee was trying to do in the last couple months was find out these ad alternates in our project that we could maybe not afford, but maybe afford, because we were running about $600,000 above our budget. This is just due to the price escalations in the construction industry. So this really is a game changer for our project, and just unbelievable. So I'm going to run through what that actually means numbers-wise for us. So this was 75%. This is what we were trying to trend towards for our project. After we raised a wonderful amount of money from our congregation in the fall, we also got a really generous donation from our annual conference to allow us to add a tower into the project. So the last time we had a discussion, we were looking at around an $11 million project. We moved that to about 12.2 to be able to add in a tower and some extra contingency due to the fact that these pricing escalations were taking up a lot of our contingency, which is money that you kind of have just in case. So you can see there that East End UMC's share of that would have been $1.84 million. So here's what it looks like with 90% FEMA cost share. So we are able to increase our budget to, if we would like, we don't even know if we'll make this make it to this number, but our project budget can go up to $14.8 million, and the church will be spending over $800,000 less expected through the project. FEMA would be paying us under this budget $9 million, and we're going to be putting in a contingency fund of $800,000 with some of the funds that we had kind of saved through this cost share, just because there might be some things that FEMA deems ineligible in our project that we really want to have as a church for the future of our church. We'll be able to afford that. And if we have money left over at the end of it, we'll probably all figure out something good to do with it. But that's where we are right now. We basically dropped our project cost by about $800,000, and we're able to add about almost $3 million into the budget. So a pretty positive development there. So these are some of the things that we are now doing because of this added cash infusion into our project. We're making a couple of footprint changes. One thing about working with FEMA is they don't give you a gigantic addition to your building. They really want it to be a replacement for the building that we have had. So we can't do giant footprint changes, but we can do things that will make it more accessible and updated for today's time. They do understand that a building built now is different than a building built over 100 years ago. So we'll make some slight ones, but you're making some larger lobby spaces, larger choir room in this new scheme compared to what we were looking at literally 2 weeks ago. Larger kitchen, maybe commercial kitchen, and a taller tower that will be the height of the previous tower at the church. And The other big one for us is we'll be able to put brick around the entire facade of the church. Before we got this cash infusion, we were looking at doing brick veneer around only the sanctuary, and then doing a type of stucco around the rest of the building, the formerly non-historic portions of the building, because it would have saved a few $100,000. But now with this new program, we were able to pretty easily afford adding that in. And then also quality upgrades for community ministries. This is important for me, but also for us as a church. You could see the amount of just government, federal, community support that we are getting to this project is substantial, is $9 million. And if we are going to accept public assistance, we need to be ready to assist the public. So with that, we're going to try and do some things that allow us to better connect to our community and serve them. Putting in a washer and dryer. We'll definitely be putting a shower into the first floor of our building to be able to host a variety of people who need that kind of a thing. And then also we're looking at doing a playground maybe a little bit down the road if we couldn't afford it, but we can definitely afford to put a playground in, which will be one of those non-FEMA supported pieces, but things that will really serve the community are going to be very important, and that they already are a part of the culture of East End. So with that, you're promised some pretty pictures, and we're really excited. Our architects have been really hard at work trying to react to this news that we gave them. They had been doing a little bit of a different scheme, and what I was just told to tell you all is this is definitely a snapshot in time. There's a few things in here that will probably wind up, we're recommending that will they'll wind up looking different, but our architects really scrambled to try and put these changes into the project in a way that you could consume them in time for this town hall in about 2 weeks' notice. So huge thank you to our architects at EOA for making this possible as well. And with that, I'll pass it over to Corey and Craig.
I get the fun part. I'm Corey Morris. Just a little background. I was a healthcare architect for years before I went home, so planning was my thing. So a lot of the changes that are in what we went through, probably 3 hours worth of meetings of just plan changes where I met, I've called a lot of you. Also to let you know that when we went through the master planning portion of this project, there were a lot of comments, and those comments and those sheets are not something that have been put to the side. Those are something that I go through regularly and read what different users in our building have asked for to be able to try and incorporate that into our plans. Also, I just wanted to make one comment about what Scott said. When FEMA hit us with this additional news, it was the perfect timing, because for us as a congregation, we were not having to move very far back to make the changes that we were needing to make, and it wasn't going to cost us more money to have the architect go forward with a certain size or certain materials or certain details. We were already at that point in time. As I told Craig, it's a blessing it happened when it did, because it was at the perfect time. God has a plan for us. So I'm going to go through with, right now I'm going to move this so I can see a little bit. We are still looking at our church, that it looks very similar to what we had before, with changes, especially along the 13th Street side. We are having it all brick. The one thing I want to iterate with the tower, that's always been a placeholder up till this point, and one of the comments we've given to the architect is to really start designing it now. So you will probably see the most amount of change occurring probably with what that tower actually becomes within the next month or so. And then, we are still that beacon up on the hill. Just another 13th Street side, so that one of the things that was really important to us from the master plan was that we have an entryway, and we address and welcome folks into our church from all sides of the church, Holly, 13th, and on Russell. And then looking back at, This is looking back at the Great Hall. Same thing is, this is a snapshot in time. We have given them a lot of different comments. So that will change a little bit of what this Great Hall looks like, but at least it gives you an idea of kind of the total massing of the building looking on 13th. Same with, this is the first floor, where you enter off 13th. We don't have a little pointer, do we? It does? Okay. So, we have, access from 13th going straight into this lobby space and then off into our Great Hall, as well as we also have access coming into where essentially our children's area and nurseries will be. One of the things that I am particularly looking at is looking through all of our user groups, whether it's the Boy Scouts, whether it's our children and youth, whether it's our youth groups, the community members that use our building, how we function, and how they come into our building, where we can close it off if we need to, providing security, that kind of thing. So right now, we have this community wing that's with the bathrooms, and then also with the additional funds, we are actually able to put in a true commercial kitchen, which is going to allow us to provide additional support to our community, as well as some of the needs of some of our other programs that we haven't been able to do so for because we were a catering kitchen. And then we have our office spaces down here, and then the toddler and youth is down here. And then as you move up, on the first floor, or the main floor, is our sanctuary. And then we have, mainly on this level, we have some meeting space and the choir area, as well as our toilets. And then all this is open. That also looks down into the lobby of the Great Hall, trying to provide some of that community between floors. Entryway is still coming in, through the front. We have the tower as our main entry, similar to what we had before. And then we're also looking at putting the covering out front, correct? Okay. Whoops. And then on the upper level, we have mainly this, is just open space to the ceiling of our sanctuary, with our elevator coming up into a lobby space. And this is pretty much what I call our teen and middle school, high school kind of area. As well as we do have an adult classroom that the Boy Scouts can use. And so all this, they're kind of more in their own groove and separate from the actual children, but they're put together by age. And then, let's see. And if anybody has any questions, or I need to stop. Oh, and then here are some additional pictures or drawings that the architect has sent us with looking again at the sanctuary, main lobby, main entranceway, 13th Street side, axonometrics of this is where you come, that's our current parking lot, so you would enter the back door up here, with this being our kitchen area, and same with there. And then we have Pastor Scott's garage over here. Looking at some axonometrics of what the inside of the structure is going to look like. One of the big separations from what we had before is we're actually looking at using exposed timber. So it'll really warm that space up. Where we did have the painted wood on the ceiling, we are going to expose that in our new sanctuary. Again, more detailed drawings. And then looking some sections. So that's what, when you're down here, whoops, sorry. So, this is a section through the sanctuary looking at from 13th Street. And then if we're sitting back near the front door, or where the choir would be sitting, this is what they're going to be looking at. And then some other different things. And I think that's all of them. Does anybody have any questions that we can answer for you? Yes.
Just one thing. First, thank you all for the amazing work you've done. And for honoring everyone's input, because it's so important that we maintain who we are in the community. Another important thing I think you didn't bring out, but if I understand it right, the great hall area with the big kitchen, that's going to be able to be used alone, so people can't go into the sanctuary now, correct?
That is correct. So that's one of the things that the architect has gotten a lot of our plan changes incorporated, so that, we moved where the toilets were originally up to the front. We've made in some spots the building's moved out, it's moved in to get us down to our square footage, but that is specifically what I'm looking at, is how we can close off the building so that when, AA or somebody else is using our space, we don't have them open to the entire building. As well as when there are conflicts, or if somebody's using the Great Hall and the youth group has something going on, or the Boy Scouts have something going on, how they can, serve meals, how they can, do they have a refrigerator or a microwave? We have a coffee maker on the second floor outside the sanctuary so that we can start serving coffee again and doing breakfast kind of things. Incorporating those kind of things that we kind of hodgepodged it in our old building. We're trying to plan for those things to happen right now, and how that, as well as being flexible, so if new things come up, that we can able to serve it for the next 100 years. Anything else? Yep.
Would the new design and the structure allow us to, say, host a room in the end?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a big part. As part of one of the reasons you can close that area off as well, is that we want to be able to allow community groups to really be able to utilize that space. We're also looking to put in some kind of an access control system to make it even easier for people to be able to access the space. And adding in a washer and dryer and also a shower are a part of this new scheme as well, so that we can serve communities like really the Inn and possibly the Launchpad. And while we do the Q&A, I'm just going to put it back to that really pretty picture of the sanctuary, because I like looking at it. Does anybody else have any more questions? Yeah. Yeah, and that's maybe something that we need to chat about now too, that we were adding a little bit of space, is in our previous scheme, storage was really at a premium because square footage was at such a premium. But we do want to make sure that we're doing our very best to accommodate groups that need storage with whatever storage we have. But that's probably going to be something that we flesh out more in the coming weeks. And there's a likelihood that we'll probably be back in front of the congregation a lot faster this time because we are going right into our 100% of design development. And I'm trying to get the clicker to move as fast as I can to see the nice pictures. I like that one a lot. Yeah. Yes?
I have hearing aids, so I was very excited to see the hearing assistant system.
Yeah.
Can you kind of describe how that will work?
I would love to. I'm married to an audiologist, so this was really something that she brought up to me. There's a thing called a hearing aid band that you can put in a sanctuary that emits a signal from the sound system that can be broadcast directly into someone's hearing aids. So it's part of our real desire to serve people, and I just and for everybody to be able to participate as fully as possible into worship.
What the square footage gonna be of the new facility versus the old?
It's on.
Well, we got these plans yesterday. I want to say we're at about 21,000, give or take now.
Yeah.
Yes, and we're at about 21,000 now when we sort of evaluate these plans. But I want to say prior we were about 19,000. So 19,000 prior.
The old is 19?
Yes.
The new is 21?
Correct. How that existing includes the basement, which we needed. So FEMA is on a like-for-like comparison. So like we can't make a 30,000 square foot building when we had 90. So we sort of considered the basement. We stored stuff down there. We had boiler space. That was our main space. So we're trying to hit essentially within about a 10% window within us. So.
Is there a wheelchair accessible entry from the parking lot?
Yes, yeah, that's one of the things that we love about it. One of the biggest change we did to this project, and if we have people smarter than me here who can say it better, please come. But one of the biggest things we did in the last iteration that we showed was we lowered the hill by about 8 to 9 feet, right? And so what that does is that gives a level of entry onto the sanctuary level right from the parking lot. So there will be that ramp, if you know, like the ramp right behind the parsonage, that goes up right about 8 to 9 feet. So the sanctuary level will be flush with that area right off of Holly Street. So you can come straight from the parking lot, straight from Holly Street on a really easy incline and come into the sanctuary on a flat level. And we have multiple points of entry like that.
And we have an elevator that services all 3 floors.
Yeah, I think that's one nuance that we talked about probably in prior town hall. But you know, the community, the Great Hall before was about 7 feet higher than where it is right now. We're actually dug into the hill, down level. What was our prior Great Hall level, right, is now down to 13. And so that allows the sanctuary to hit that parking lot elevation instead of being a full level above.
And then I saw one other hand up. Yeah, Tony.
The rendering with the babies, the soul babies, in the sanctuary, that's
Good.
it's really beautiful.
Yeah. The funny thing about that was it really first came into play as a cost-saving measure a while back. But it just, I mean, sometimes you don't have to spend more money to be really, really beautiful. And I'm really glad you like it. Yeah.
I see there's steps on the front to the porch there. Does that mean the sanctuary then is above the Holly Street level?
That's correct. Yeah. So from Holly Street, you're going to go up you go up the stairs. However, if you came up the alley down Holly Street, it's
Steps in front though, and off the side, right?
correct. Yeah.
Or that much.
Yeah. 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 Jim.
One of the questions that came up earlier in regard to many people's acknowledgement of their stewardship of the land and whether or not there were sites remaining on
Yeah, so as part of our demolition project, I mean, we had to go through a very lengthy process with FEMA where they sent out letters to state agencies, but also any Native American group that might have a claim or a history on the land to see how they felt about us taking the structure down. What we were told for this go-around is that we just need to have, they put these stipulations on called lids, which I believe are on the website, which basically say we need to tread carefully during our demolition. We're not doing a lot of digging during the demolition. The next iteration, when we do our site work on the project, as long as the church and the conference approve of all these plans, we will be doing a lot of digging, and what we anticipate is need to hire something called an archaeological monitor, which is something I took a class on in seminary. I'm just kidding. And so basically, this person will be making sure, and I think it lines up with our church's values as well, that whenever we dig, if we're digging on sacred ground, we need to make sure that it is given the opportunity to be honored. We will have plenty of. It might incur some extra costs, honestly, and some extra time, but I think it would be time and money well spent. And then Tim.
Yeah, this is a beautiful design. Just want to thank all of you for really listening to the feedback as the plans unfold for this. It's nice to see all the access points for the church. And so as we move into the new space and we keep this momentum going for East End, hopefully we'll have more community engagement. So my question is there a strategy around parking? Is the capacity for parking changing at all for possibly additional members of the church?
I think that actually is really come into play a lot with the structure itself. Is our church is going to fit the same amount of people. The building itself, they'll have the same capacity in the sanctuary. It's really hard to find additional space in East Nashville, and we had plans early on in the project to grow the sanctuary, I think 450. But one of the things we did realize is the neighborhood has its own capacity. So I think some of the strategies would be less of trying to find an extra parking space, but if the church does grow, which I hope it does, I think we'd have to do things outside of have multiple services or structure things in ways to get people in the building at different times and things like that. I don't know if there's a good thing other than spending a ton of money to put up a parking garage, which we don't have, and I think the neighborhood would really not enjoy that either. So. But if you have suggestions, honestly, that's one of the biggest things, the biggest assets this committee has is the congregation around it, who's given some positive feedback, also shared some tough love at times, but everybody wants to get it right. So I'll say we don't have a parking plan right now. If there's people have some really good ideas on how to increase parking, then we'd love to hear it.
Real quick, we have always kind of turned our back to 13th. And now with entrance off of 13th, it probably does open up some more corridors, along there that people may park and walk in from different ways. But yeah, we were sort of landlocked in terms of available paving space.
There was one suggestion for making 13th Street one way, and have angle parking on that side, handicap parking there, and then the alley making it one way back. That's a suggestion I read somewhere.
Yeah, the only thing with doing that is that will be a city thing, and we will not have any access. Like, if we would not have strict control over allowing those spaces to be open on Sunday. So anybody in the neighborhood is community can park there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tina.
Is it my understanding there's a completely place in more outdoor living around where the fruit trees are? We bought one of them in the last 2 years. Communicable diseases that we need to get outside, and it's pleasant
The playground would be behind. I mean, it's something that we haven't. I mean, we're going to need the children's committee to really work with us too, and everything. It would be behind the community wing, or not the community wing, the Great Hall area. There's a patch of grass back there, and I think there will be a lot more kind of landscape architecture stuff that you'll see for outdoor spaces in future iterations. But there'll definitely be more greenery around the area, I would think. But yeah, that's good. Okay, looks like all hearts are clear. I'm going to make one quick thing to say is we do have an email that some of you do email, and we check, called eastendrebuilding@gmail.org. if there are questions or comments that you have moving forward. I wanted to say one of the coolest parts of this whole project has been being around a group that spends a ton of time and energy and talent on this stuff, but also does it with the humility to know when we get something that's an opposing view from what we're being presented, that person could be very much right. So it's really important to this group for you to share your feedback, your comments, your suggestions, and what my great hope is that we can either take your suggestion and use it, or we could give you a really good explanation of a heartfelt reason why we went in a different direction on it. But I do think that some of the most important parts of us pushing our project to the point where we have this it's a beautiful looking building. We showed people other designs, and they just really told us that they did not like it at all, and they were right. And so we need to continue to have that, our congregation as an asset in that way, so that we can make this the best building that we can. That's the biggest interest that I can say on behalf of the building committee. So please email eastendrebuilding@gmail.com or call one of us, email. I've gotten like 2 emails to East End Rebuilding in the last 2 months. It's both from a guy trying to sell me furniture, so I'd love more stuff from the community on it. Oh, Pastor Carey.
I just would like to make a brief announcement as we wrap up that our comprehensive mentors will still meet upstairs briefly this late morning.
Yeah. That's Craig gave a good suggestion. So what's next for our project is we're going to be getting a 100% design development architectural rendering or drawings and plans from our architects at EOA. We're going to receive those and hopefully really like them. It's going to put more detail and more meat on those bones. And then we're going to then have our contractors price that amount or those designs so that we can know what our budget would be for that kind of price. They give this thing called like a guaranteed maximum price, which we just get a good estimate. And when that happens, when we have these plans, design development plans, and we have the price that goes along with it, then we're able to take a financial plan and these architectural plans to our district committee on location and building, get their approval. And then we're going to need to come to the entire membership of the church. If you're a church member, you'll have a voice and a vote and get the approval for what's called an initial financial plan and architectural designs. So we'll be seeing, I think it's going to be a couple more weeks before we see the designs from EOA. And then it might take about 5 weeks to get the pricing from American Constructors. And then we'll be really, as soon as we get those designs and we feel like it's something that we'd like to recommend moving forward with, we'll start really sharing those and having a lot of time for people to absorb that even before the costs come out, because we want people to have as much time with these designs, this project, ask questions, make comments as possible before we move forward with a vote. The last thing I want is for this vote to be something that comes down to any contention. I want it to be a celebration. And so we'll want to make sure that we keep you informed in that. Is that okay? All right. Well, that is our building committee presentation, and thank you very much for being the church in this time. It's really pretty cool.